Most people believe the idea that the United States was founded so its citizens could find opportunities and pursue happiness. It even states in the Declaration of Independence that all men were created equal. So, how can that possibly not be offered to everyone? The Constitution was written by a group of white men for all individuals. However, only a selected few actually benefited from it. We will be explaining why America was, in fact, not the land of opportunity. Good shit, bro. Good shit. African Americans were treated as second rate citizens and are often seen as property and nothing more. They had no constitutional rights, from not being able to testify in court without having a present white person, and not being able to vote. Whippings were painful and humiliating. Even other slaves were forced to torture one another. Separation of family was also a big threat due to various reasons like death of owner and financial crisis. They were only thought of as properties and were often not cared for personally. Around 4 million slaves lived in the South before the Civil War. These slaves were hauled from various African countries to be sold and auctioned. It wasn't long until after the Civil War when they were given constitutional rights.
Gender roles and identities also played an important role in shaping English and Native American interactions. Cultures identified gentlemen assumptions based on what women did as their daily work, and as a result, judged their own gender identities. Being judged by what women did also brought in new cultural forms throughout the years. Women would work in the fields while the men would hunt and do other activities they found interesting. Women had to do what they were told by their male figures in the household. Although women were thought less of and only sufficient enough to do housework, raise their own children, and most importantly, attend to their husband's needs, they did most of the work in a household.
Low income families were never given the opportunity to own land while rich men owned land often. America in the early 1600s was not a land of opportunity at all. All the southern Africans were traveling to become indentured servants in the New World. Their chances of becoming free and becoming landowners were slim. The reason for that is because in order to pay back their trip, they would have to serve a certain term of years by working long hours in the tobacco fields. With that being said, most of the indentured servants were never granted their freedom and ended up dying due to high physical labor.
The New World was not the place of opportunity for the Native Americans. The arrival of the Europeans brought drastic and devastating changes to Native American lives. It led to the death of many Native Americans and the traditions, as well as the removal of these Native Americans from their land. The Europeans, along with their goods and people, brought diseases that were foreign to the New World as well.
After the English began colonizing Carolina in 1670, the disease pattern became all too clear. Major epidemics struck the region at least once every generation. 1698, 1718, 1738, 1759, and a variety of less virulent illnesses almost never left native settlements. James H. Morrell, The New Indian's World. The increased deaths of the Native Americans, especially the older members, led to the quick death of many traditions. The older members of the Native American tribes were often the ones that knew the sacred traditions and were the ones that taught the younger members the skills that they need to know. Along with the death of these older members went the long traditions and knowledge that may have yet to have been passed down.